What's up? I'm going to be talking about the Dave Smith and Nick Fuentes podcast. This is it was a 3-hour podcast. I watched it on 2 times speed and took notes, so give me a break. But so they started off saying how they were kind of the two mainstream guys on the Israel stuff. And I was thinking they're kind of the two mainstream guys on most conflicts right now because the liberals are kind of nuts. But regardless of that, they were kind of arguing at first, the first hour and a half. It was interventionalist versus an identitarian interventionalist. And Nick Fuentes is the identitarian interventionalist. I see a big problem with that, just in general, that argument. I don't think those are just political perspectives. Like those, that is leaning into identity politics, and it is what is causing the chaos in like social media and stuff. And that is part of the problem in this country, is that people just blame other sides and stuff. And throughout this podcast, there's a lot of examples of it being brought up, and David questioned him, and Nick kind of like would sidestep it and just say, "Oh, we just have different views," and it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. So, anyways, they started off talking about Peterson, how he was like against the liberal stuff, and that kind of like pushed people towards Nick, and it made sense. Like everything. Like they had a lot of like, most of what they were saying was like correct and like morally based and wasn't like retarded. But yeah, basically my problems came down to the identity politics aspects and kind of the Jew hate and just hating people in general. Like why do we have to be pissed at everyone? Who knows? But all right, let's see what the first thing is. So everyone knows Israel's bad. They're genociding these people. Obviously, not good. But Nick goes far and he points it to the Jews. And I just don't understand why Jews have to be the target in that conversation of like that war and genocide. I get it. It's a Jewish nation, whatever. But like, I don't see people criticizing Christians when America is like bombing places. Like we're a Christian nation, but like our politics aren't. Like it's like such a stupid argument for one. And it's like, I get it. There are like maybe loopholes in like certain industries, financing in Hollywood, that Jewish people might help each other out with, but like that is a simple like DEI fix that needs to be taken out of those industries. Like the financial industry should not be promoting DEI. They should not be like doing that stuff. And this is not stuff introduced by like today liberals. This was introduced like long ago. I'll have to look it up. But this is deeper. I mean, obviously, like, and like the Jew hate stuff's gone back super far. Like, it goes back really far in America. Like, Henry Ford has a book about like how Jews run the world and like whatever. I'm sure there's valid points in there. It's just like, it's not the Jews, it's the elites that are running Israel and like who developed Israel, those elites. So, for example, a loophole that the Jews can get ahead in society, and really any ethnic group that realizes and has enough power and has been here long enough to get involved. There's laws like the Fair Housing Act and Equal Credit Opportunity Act, and it stops banks from treating or advertising to customers differently based off race, religion, or similar traits. So they can't be a black-only bank or Jewish-only bank or Christian-only bank, but that doesn't stop them from advertising that they're black owned or they're Jewish owned or they're Christian owned or Catholic owned, and it kind of virtue signals to that group, and then they can put those in those specific communities in America, and that gives those financial institutions ways to like kind of off the books records, do certain deposits to certain people and maybe give less interest. And that's just for the financial sector. And I did kind of like have ChatGPT make up a bill to like, just as like kind of an example, but I haven't really looked in like the Hollywood kind of capture of like Jewish people or those kind of like elitists. They're obviously there with the whole Diddy stuff, Weinstein, whatever. But all right, we're going on to the next thing. So a big thing they hit on too, and this is getting more on like the kind of the American argument that they kind of talked about that Nick preaches a lot about, and it kind of pisses me off. Like it really pisses me off. But they both kind of defended the fact that the darkening of America is bad in a way, and it was like, I get it, I understand, like especially for kind of the older people. Like I'm 22, but the older people and their parents kind of live like that. And they're like, oh, you should date white people and you should marry a white kid and have white babies. But it's obviously changed. I grew up around black people and I don't see them any differently. And I don't think having a mixed child would be bad, or like a little Mexican little baby getting like with a Latina chick. Like that's kind of badass, but I don't think that would like erode culture either, because like when people come here, they're supposed to assimilate. So like if they integrate racially, like it shouldn't be a fucking problem if the culture's fine. And like things assimilated properly and laws didn't get changed for a certain group or another, or social media didn't get canceled for a certain group or another. Like it's kind of a problem. It kind of pisses me off that they kind of like said the fact that, oh, the people back in the day, like America wouldn't like that if, like 10, 20 years ago. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of the whole thing. Like people were kind of racist back then. Like they would say the N-word on TV and stuff, like crazy shit. But then they also like, they kind of were alluding to like, oh, black people are like that, where they only want to be with other black people and have black kids. And it's like, that's fine. Like if you're a white person, you want to do that, that's fine too. It's just it's not for everyone. Like there's people in the cities who intermingle with every race every single day, and if they find someone who's Indian, Mexican, black, or whatever, and they want to have a kid, that is whatever. Like the America is already like like pretty evenly distributed with the races at this point. And who knows the actual numbers, because what the government says probably isn't right. But it's like, and then I think they said something about like some black people actually just hate white people, and it's like, do they? Like that? And it's like, I'm sure there are some, but it's like all the ones I've met, they never had a problem with me. And I worked in Chicago for 2 years, like with my DirecTV job, and like I worked in the South Side and like never had problems. So it's like, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, I saw like crackheads and shit, like nothing like bad happened to me ever. I used to sell weed in Springfield, Illinois, and like that I sold to black people, Mexicans, whatever, and like I got robbed and shot at by a white guy. So it's like, I feel like it's all just, it's identity politics when you call out, oh, this race is a problem, and it's like, that is not it. Like there's deeper issues when you go and you look at these communities and there's statistics of crimes that are the same from 50 years ago that are happening in the same areas, and it's like, maybe these inner cities are ran by some pretty bad people, and like these politicians aren't really helping out their communities as they say they are. Like in all the major cities and where a majority of the crime is democratically ran. I'm sorry, but it's kind of what it is. And it's like it goes back to the thing where um like liberal politicians have kind of just seemed to like just disrupt the area and disrupt what they're in and what city they're in and make it worse on purpose. Like it seems like they're almost paid to do that. Um and it's like, of course those communities, specifically black communities, Southside Chicago, are in worser conditions is because their politicians do not care about them. And if there is South, it's like southern states with black communities and they're struggling with this problem, maybe their politicians need to step up and fucking help them. Like, and they're fucking Republicans, like help them. But and like you're paying taxes. Do you see those tax dollars coming back? Like, do you? Like, I don't, and I'm in Illinois, Central Illinois. I don't see them coming back here really. I see the town trying to help out building places, but those are city grants, not our tax dollars. Um, but and a big thing in these cities and certain places, there's nothing for these people to look forward to, so they just go to the street life. And that's kind of this whole thing where these streets are what keep these people in this lifestyle. And there's nothing to look forward to with life besides kind of that lifestyle. And that's kind of a similar reference people use for like terrorist regions like Iraq and Iran, and like why kids turn to terrorism in those places is because there's nothing to look forward to. So Chirac should be the official name of Chicago. With the whole like group hate thing, like it really goes back to kind of like what MLK said. I probably should look up some better quotes for him, but I know it's based out of like the peace, love, and music movement and kind of unifying people and like not talking about identity politics and like looking at the real problems and who's in charge of this shit. Like, it's just frustrating when people point the finger at people who clearly aren't making decisions. It's like calling groups out when it's like, okay, they have a government above their head. You're gonna blame the people under them for the propaganda their politicians are putting out. And I heard Dave Smith say something about that ultimately too. But yeah, love each other, people. All right, so going into some Nick Fuentes controversy, he said that his bank problems were because Israel was like, he was criticizing Israel back then, and that's why they went after him and froze his bank because it was the Jews, and they're gonna ruin his life and take away his PayPal. And it's like, his whole January 6th thing is just like obviously the feds are looking at you, buddy. Like a day before January 6th, some French dude fucking sends $25,000, $250,000 to this guy's account, his Bitcoin account, and then he commits suicide. You don't think the government's gonna be like, "Hey, this is a little weird. We should probably look at this." Like, it makes sense. I've heard they didn't give it back to him. I don't know if that's right, but if they didn't give it back, they should definitely get it back, and that's fucking a totalitarian government for you. But um, yeah, and it's like Nick might be a Fed ultimately, and I have a conspiracy for that. I might go back to, but yeah, he's not a Fed. But like, if something happens, he's Fed. I'll talk about it. But so Nick was dodging kind of the he was like the whole podcast, he was just dodging the political ideological like politics question, and it's like they've kept asking him, do you hate the Jews? And it's like, no, we just think different, and I'm more radical, and like, so you're just leaning into the identity politics basically. But whatever, I'll put a clip, show you.
It's like, well, yeah, because I don't think that's right. And I don't like, yes, there, and we can get into more of this, but like, no, like Barry the dentist has nothing to do with any of this. And he, you know, like, I think on some level, maybe I'm wrong, but I also don't think you're really trying to gin up hatred toward that guy. And so maybe that's why I stopped short of blaming the Jews. I think it's sloppier and not as accurate.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I think it's important just on a basic level to say that we don't agree on everything. Like, we are distinct, and I wouldn't even say it's about further or closer. It's just that we are coming at it from different places. You believe it's the neocons, and it's in particular the War Party and Israel, and how those interact. And me, as an identitarian, I do look at the world through an identity-based lens, that you've got whites, blacks, Jews, and they all have political interest. They all identify as these groups. They group up based on them, and then those groups have conflicting interests. That's what politics has become, is like meeting out those interests. Like, is it in the interest of white people to go to war in Iraq? No. But for Jews, yes, because they have this connection to Israel. And same about all these other things. And so, you know, even getting back to our beef, yeah, we could quibble about, you know, I don't think that there's some conspiracy. I don't think they got together and said, let's invite Dave because, you know, he's going to like maintain censorship and Jewish control. Like, I don't believe that. But I do believe that you clearly take the more moderate position, or even I would say the more liberal position. As a libertarian, you're like a lowercase l liberal in the sense that you think that it's, like you said, it's not Jews in themselves or Jewish identity in itself. It is particular people in power, in particularly the state, that are doing these violent policies, whereas me, it is maybe a more radical rejection of liberalism.
And he doesn't like, I don't think Nick likes ethnic violence, but I don't know why he leans into the almost ethnic or ideological politics, like the ethnic like identity politics. Like, why does he lean into that? And like, is he grifting? Like, this is what it seems like. He's grifting to get attention. Like, I know, like, he's like, oh, I'm not a shock jock, but it's like just be honest, man. Like, people want honesty. They're seeing through you, and it's like, you can't just say it's a different opinion because it's identity politics. You're leaning into the sides. And that's why people think you're a Fed right there. But like, the conspiracy, I'm gonna predict the future with this conspiracy. Just wait. So Nick says the Jews, like the group, what he says that is like Larry Ellison, Larry Fink, whatever those guys, all those like top 1% in American financial ladder. Is that really what he's saying? So he's saying, oh no, the elites are just all Jews. Like, how about we just say the truth here, buddy? Like, can we go after the right people? And just like Larry Fink, and they're not just part of like a multi-trillion-dollar company or anything that might just be controlling the central banks of the entire world, but it's the Jews. What the fuck? And he also said that like they operate in Jewish think tanks, and this is like the whole identity politics that he believes in. It's like there's all sorts of these like kind of think tanks of like main organizations and main leaders, and there's a Jewish one, and there's a black think tank with like BLM or whatever the political like I've seen them, like there's groups that are black, and they're black Americans, and they're kind of like thinking on that way of what's best for the black people, and I get that, but for one, the black groups, they don't have as much publicity as maybe a Jewish think tank, or for instance, the Catholics have the Vatican that kind of control what they do politically, and the Christians have their great evangelical, like the rich pastors and whatever floats your boat. But those organizations should be banned from participating in politics, plain, point, simple. They're supposed to support their culture. They're not supposed to influence politics. That might get me killed, but like, we're supposed to unite here. We're not supposed to be pinning each other in certain bubbles and waiting for these bubbles to burst, and then we all blame it on that bubble. And like, this is a problem. Identity politics is a problem, and these think tanks of these specific colored people, like brown, white, whatever, the Mexican think tanks, I'm sure, and the LA think tanks, and whatever. Like if you were an ethnic, religious, or racial think tank, you should not be giving money to political people. You should be banned from doing that, or something along those lines, because that is kind of DEI at the end of the day, where it's like, oh, everyone should be represented and that, but it's like, this is leading into the chaos why everyone fucking hates each other right now. So maybe we should try to stop that, and not just blame the other side, of course. Another thing Nick said was the left needs to be like disarmed with power, like politically, and like, I get what he's saying. Like, they're like the DNC is preaching some crazy shit with like the whole gay, trans stuff, whatever. It definitely got out of hand. Like, we set our line at the bathrooms. We're not letting them in the bathrooms. We're not letting them in the sports. And that was kind of the line. They lost the election. That's over with. And it's like, they're trying to like stop that from ever happening again. And I don't like, why do we politically have to stop these things? When you stop them, they're just going to be undone the next fucking time a Democrat gets in. And it's like, why are we propelling this cycle of like, oh, they do something and then it gets undone, and then they get back in and then they get it done again and redone and undone and redone. And it's like, this is also playing into the kind of like the cycle of chaos that America goes through. And that also splits people to different sides, of course. And I don't know why. I wish it could be done where like, instead of like outcasting the left and kind of preventing them from being able to hurt the people, how about we like try to unify people and like actually show them like what's wrong and like what the right thing to do and like how to fix these things are, and like actually work through truth and common sense, and like the normal people will actually like listen to you, and like, if you make sense and like don't play into this identity politics, people will listen to you because you're not fucking biased. But yeah, I mean, if we could actually like show people what's good and what to do and how to fix it and what's wrong and who to blame, for real, names, not groups, I feel like it will definitely come to a better situation. But the identity politics is definitely clouding the truth in that argument of who's right and who's wrong. And it's an issue, and Nick plays into that hardcore. So it's very annoying. All right. So here's the conspiracy time for Nick. His January 6th alibi is super weird. He said he was like inciting basically violence, but then he said he didn't do anything. Like, his alibi on the Dave Smith podcast specifically was very scattered. He was all over the place with it. And he said like really weird stuff. I'll try to find it and put it in here. And like Dave even said, like, would that be incitement? And Nick was like, no, I'm protected by the freedom of speech. And I get that, but like, we can still shame you for like pushing those sides. And it's like, yeah, we see all these federal agents were there. It's like, what were they doing? The same thing you were doing, like pressuring people to like go into the White House and kick the barriers down. Like, see, so, like, this is like why people think you're a Fed, obviously. Like, that story does not make sense.
I guess maybe the thing about it is that it does seem, just on the surface of it, and I'm not accusing you of being a Fed at all. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think you're a Fed. But I guess just on the surface of, if there's a video of you advocating people go into the Capitol and the way they were just getting everybody, and it does seem like, although you're obviously a lot bigger now than you were then, you still would have been a pretty nice scalp to be on their mantle. You know what I mean? Like, it would just be like, oh, wouldn't they go at you for that and try to find some charge or something like that? But is it the case that there's just nothing to charge you with, or what?
There was nothing to charge me with. I mean, they looked at charging me, but I didn't trespass. I wasn't violent. And
wouldn't that be inciting?
Yeah,
something?
But my lawyer told me I'm protected by the First Amendment for that, because it wasn't like the language was such that it wouldn't be. And also, no one else got charged with incitement. The charges were trespassing, conspiracy, all things that didn't apply to me.
Right. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
And then this is where I get down a rabbit hole. So, what if Nick was put into the media? He's a plant, right? And he was put in there to kind of shift or make a big enough group to shift against Israel. So we can then say Israel has failed and they are not capable of making peace in the Middle East. And the U.S. needs to militarily occupy Israel to get the job done. I could see it happening. And it's like, it is set up so perfectly for it. And it kind of goes back to the thing, like, why let a good opportunity go to waste? And if this happens, though, Nick is 1,000% a Fed, and he has done it flawlessly. But so, yeah. And he said, and like another thing, like weird, he was saying that like the whole Fed rumor was only like started by Tucker and Candace, and it's like, I thought Elon was the first one to do that, like start that rumor, but the fact that he didn't bring up Elon in the Dave podcast is kind of weird in regards to that too. But I don't know. Well, if you liked his rant, go ahead and subscribe, but I appreciate it.